Thank you so much, Rochelle. Thanks everyone for being here. Welcome. Welcome. This is our opportunity to share with you our vision for CAPS 8. And I'm going to go ahead and share my slides. Thank you so much for being here, for being part of our CAPS community. We're thrilled to have you. And as you may know, the Center for AIDS Prevention Studies is funded by the National Institutes of Mental Health as an HIV prevention focused research center since 1986. And we began our 8th five-year funding cycle in September, which is why we are referring to this particular cycle of CAPS as CAPS 8. And I'm just going to briefly share with you the agenda for today's town hall. I'll be providing an overview of the center as well as the administrative core. And then we have all of our esteemed core directors here to present on each of the cores, the developmental core, the methods core, community engagement core, our new implementation science and health systems core. And then we're going to do our very best to leave a nice amount of time at the end of the presentation for questions and answers. So I am Jae Sevelius. I am the new director of the Center for AIDS Prevention Studies, and Mallory Johnson is our co-director. And I'm a new director. As you may know, our highly esteemed previous director, Dr. Margarita Lightfoot, moved on to become the Associate Dean for Research at the Oregon Health Sciences University / Portland State University's School of Public Health. So we're really excited for Dr. Lightfoot, and this is our new kind of structure of CAPS. And I wanted to just kind of give a brief overview of how CAPS is situated within, under the umbrella of UCSF, as this can be really confusing for people because we're within the Department of Medicine, which is actually within the School of Medicine. And the School of Medicine comprises 28 academic departments, of which the Department of Medicine, which we're in, is the largest. There's also 8 organized research units and 6 interdisciplinary research centers. And the Center for AIDS Prevention Studies, CAPS, is one of 3 centers within the division, along with the Prevention Research Center and the Center of Excellence for Transgender Health. And the chief of the Division of Prevention Science is Dr. Mallory Johnson. And the center builds in various feedback mechanisms. As you can see here, we have an external scientific advisory board, as well as a community advisory board. And we also conduct surveys to evaluate our consultation services and do a lot of strategic planning to inform our scientific direction. So this is kind of how CAPS is currently structured. So I want to talk a little bit about the 2 primary themes of CAPS 8. As we always have been, and even more so in this iteration of CAPS, our themes are focused on the need to increase access to and uptake of HIV services by those who need it the most. And this is very strongly reflected in our first primary theme, which is co-occurring and multiplicative factors, which recognizes that our current HIV prevention and care toolbox is implemented in such a way that it doesn't actually address the social and structural dynamics that lead to multiple layers of vulnerability and protection for certain groups. So in particular, in CAPS 8, we consider the intersection of identities based on race, sexual orientation, class, gender identity, geography, as well as other social factors that interact to affect HIV, as well as its co-presence with other health conditions. The second theme of CAPS 8 is HIV-related health systems, which addresses the design and implementation of health services and policies to ensure that that HIV prevention and care toolbox is truly accessible to all, as well as features the innovative and alternative strategies to implement health services in diverse environments, which includes clinics, community-based organizations, mobile health services, and lay health teams. These are the overarching specific aims of the center. Each core also has its own specific aims, but these are sort of the aims of the center as a whole. And aim one is to catalyze a strong scientific environment. And we do this by supporting, igniting, timely, innovative, high impact, multidisciplinary research so that we can really nimbly address the current and emerging issues for ending the HIV epidemic, and particularly those related to the center's themes that I just mentioned. Aim two is to strengthen the scientific workforce. And we do this by increasing the number of our investigators, the competence of our investigator, the diversity of our investigators, as well as our community and public health partners, so that the research that we're conducting is high priority and high impact, and also addresses the center's themes. Our third aim is to advance innovative methods. And we do this by promoting novel research designs, integrative methods, as well as cutting edge technologies. And all of these are required to address the complex factors and strategies to increase access to the full HIV prevention and care toolbox for all people. The fourth aim is to maximize public health impact. And so, as we've done throughout the center's history, we try to bridge the gap between research and practice to really support research that ensures that efficacious interventions and practices are being implemented in the community optimally and equitably, and community encompassing HIV-related health systems, CBOs, and other settings, as I mentioned earlier. So this is sort of how the cores are designed to really impact our ability to conduct innovative, high-impact research to end HIV. And the CAPS cores are designed to foster scientific innovation, encourage collaboration, enhance our excellence and relevance in research, as well as effectively disseminate research findings. So the administrative and developmental cores are required by the center grant, and they encompass management of the scientific infrastructure, as well as development and support of our investigators. The research cores, which are methods, community engagement, and implementation science and health systems, reflect the scientific priorities as well as the themes of CAPS. And as I mentioned earlier, the Implementation Science and Health Systems Core is our newest addition, which evolved from CAPS's prior Intervention and Implementation Core, which of course we'll be hearing more about that later in the presentation. So all cores and their resources are accessible to CAPS scientists and our affiliates, as well as to the larger HIV community, including CBOs, health departments, and clinicians. We'll be hearing more from each of the core directors about the specific services and resources that are provided by each core and how consultation can be requested. As part of the administrative core's charge, we carefully track each consultation, and we also ask recipients about their satisfaction with our services so that we can be sure that the resources that we're providing are meeting the needs of our various communities. So here are the specific aims of the administrative core, as well as the leadership structure of our core's team. So aim one is to provide leadership to the center, scientific, programmatic, and administrative leadership, which includes providing key decision-making functions and also developing and implementing a center-wide strategic plan. Our core scientist for strategic planning, Dr. Judy Auerbach, plays a key role in the strategic planning process. And we also convene an external scientific advisory board comprised of leaders in the field. The second aim is around synergy. So we seek to foster scientific innovation and enhance productivity of the center by monitoring and evaluating our progress, the progress of each of the cores, getting input on that progress by our external scientific advisory board, as well as our community advisory board. We also facilitate collaboration across cores so that we can maximize our ability to collaborate and innovate. Our science coordinator, Stuart Gaffney, helps keep us organized and on track as we implement and evaluate the many moving pieces of the center. Aim 3 is around operations. So we're tasked with ensuring efficient and responsive administrative and fiscal operations. So we maintain oversight of that and get a lot of support from our Deputy Director, Sheri Ross, as well as Nicole Randall, our research finance analyst, and they help us maintain best practices around fiscal and administrative management. We also support CAPS scientists to conduct research that adheres to the highest ethical standards. And Dr. Judy Tan is our core scientist for ethics, and she can be contacted directly for ethics-related consultations. We also convene an anti-racism working group that is led by our core scientist for DEI, Dr. Chadwick Campbell.
It's time to wrap up.
And I will pass it along to our Developmental Core Director, Dr. Mallory Johnson.
I used up part of my time by being on mute. Sorry about that. Thank you, Jay, for that great overview. I'm going to dive right in because we have 5 minutes per core and lots of activities to talk about. So I'll start by saying that the Developmental Core is, so I'm the director. John Sauceda has joined as the co-director of the core. Jae Sevelius in Jay's role as CAPS director, but also someone who loves development and mentoring is still actively involved. And we also include the directors of TAPS, Edwin Charlebois and Glenn Milo, and Tor and Emily for the VP program, and also representation from the ITAPS program. And we couldn't make any of it happen without Rochelle and Stuart keeping us going and keeping us organized. Next slide, please. So the aims. So the aims of the Developmental Core have, we've been keeping what works and adding to it as we go. These build on prior work that we did in the last iteration of CAPS, as well as in prior ones as well, under the leadership, the Developmental Core leadership of Susan Keglis. Hi, Susan. And then Susan Folkman before her. So building on the excellent Susans. Our specific aims for the Developmental Core: first, to stimulate creative, timely, and rigorous multidisciplinary research. And that includes our Innovative Grants program. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. These are pilot awards that are rigorously reviewed and really to help build the stepping stones for the next large studies. And these will be related. We'll make particular solicitation for those related to the themes that Jay outlined previously. So we also have our peer review program, which is done, which is fantastic, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. And we are also doing writing retreats, which has been increasing in frequency since we're doing them virtually, and new programs related to having accountability partners and a new grant writing incubator program. We also cultivate in the capacity and diversity of investigators. So this includes with direct training through the training programs that are part of CAPS and in the division, but also programs that are for all of our staff, trainees, and faculty. We will be implementing some programs on strategic planning and time management and other programs. And we have a strong emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging as well. Next slide, please. So finally, the third aim is to nurture a high-impact scientific environment. And this, the primary mechanism here is to convene town halls on key topic areas, both internally and external expertise, and also linking our researchers with opportunities within the university but outside of the center, and including HIV research networks, such as the HIV Prevention Trials Network, the Adolescent Trials Network, CFARS, and so on. Next slide. Okay, so how do you access these services? So we have upcoming town halls are listed on the DPS website. We update them when they're scheduled. There's a few that are upcoming, and we also have the TAPS program. It's not too late, but getting close. So applications are due December 10th. And also there's the peer review program that I mentioned before. And this dovetails with the Prepare program in the Department of Medicine. We're working out how to really synergize with them. And so far it's going very well. Thank you, Judy Hahn. I saw you here earlier. We also have writing retreats, which we've expanded to call writing/focus retreats, so that someone who may have focused work that involves reading or catching up on other activities that's not technically writing. We have one tomorrow. It's a 3-hour structured event. Welcome to join. The CAPS Innovative Grants Program, we participate in the RAP program every spring, and we have usually two $50,000 pilot awards. And this could be either mentored awards for earlier career investigators, including postdocs, or new direction awards for more established investigators. The Grant Writing Incubator Program is a new one that we're going to be starting hopefully soon. This is modeled after the Visiting Professor Program, which includes weekly and targeted writing tasks with feedback. So we find a critical mass of more than one person who are writing a grant for the same deadline or thereabouts. And we break up the writing and review into grant application components. So 1 week will focus on specific aims where everyone reads everyone's and gives feedback, then focusing on approach, significance, innovation, and so on. So the idea is to really keep people moving and giving feedback along the way. And also tying with the CFAR mentoring program, the CAPS CFAR Mentoring the Mentors program, which is a 2-day in-person, we hope, training for improving mentoring competency. This is open to mentors on the country.
So time to wrap up.
Okay. Time and priority management. We also have the International Traineeship in AIDS Prevention Studies and the Visiting Professor Program. Lots more information can be found on all those on the website or by reaching out to any of us. Is that the end of my slides? I think that's it. Okay. Thank you.
All right. I think I'll go ahead and dive in because I've learned over the years it's always a good idea to keep our timekeeper Stuart as happy as possible. So this will be Methods Core in 5 minutes. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'd like to start off by telling you all a little bit about who's in the core. I'm the core director, and my area of expertise is broadly behavioral statistics and scale validation. We also have Will Brown as one of our co-directors with expertise in biomedical informatics and analysis of large data sets, aka big data. We have Edwin Charlebois, who has expertise in epidemiology and biomedical measurement, and then Kim Kester, who has expertise in qualitative and mixed methods research, including cognitive interviewing. So those individuals on the left-hand column comprise the core leadership group. And then we're also very ably assisted and complemented by several core scientists, including S.D. Hudis with expertise in advanced biostatistics and STATA. And then our newest core scientist, Hannah Leslie, who has expertise in a wide variety of areas, including one that I actually recently learned about that's not listed here, which is discrete choice experiments. So that's very exciting. And then we have Lance Pollock, who has expertise in behavioral surveillance, surveys, complex sampling methods, and the like. And the thing I want to emphasize here is that all are available for pre-award and post-award consultations and peer reviews as part of the peer review system Mallory was just discussing. We also have several consultants who we were fortunate enough to be able to recruit onto our CAPS-8 application, consistent with our thematic areas of emphasis. So Lisa Boleg, who's an expert in intersectional research methods, and Maya Peterson from UC Berkeley, who's an expert in machine learning and causal inference in HIV research. And then, as so many others have already said, none of this would happen without Stuart ably supporting us and keeping us on track. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have a lot of specific aims here, but I think the take-home message from this slide is that I tend to think of our activities as falling into two broad buckets. One is our sort of bread and butter day-to-day, ongoing pre-award and post-award one-on-one consultations and related support. For instance, we help people with data analysis plans and sample size plans for grant proposal applications on the pre-award side. And I want to emphasize that that not only includes quantitative, but also qualitative and mixed methods. So don't be shy about reaching out to Kim for support around qualitative study designs. And then we also offer post-award support when people are analyzing data and they may have questions about certain aspects of that process. We're happy to engage. And then, as mentioned before, we also participate actively in the peer review process. What's more new for CAPS 8 is we're trying to promote the use of rigorous study designs through didactic seminars coupled with hands-on structured workshops. So for those of you who may have been here about 5 years ago, where we did a day-long workshop hosted by Billy Namshani on smart designs, we're trying to move more in that direction with our group-based offerings to help make them practical, accessible, and useful for CAPS and affiliated scientists. A key aspect of all of this, as Jay mentioned in the overview, is the use of emergent technologies and multiple data sources. And so that's going to be something that we're going to be focusing on for some of our group-based activities as we move forward over the next 5 years. And then we also want to foster the use of advanced analytic and mixed methods, including in areas such as natural language processing and machine learning, multi-method and complex mixed methods approach, and data collection and integration. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have all these great services. How do you access them? So as I mentioned before, we're planning to continue offering consultations on an ongoing basis. That won't change. We have 3 upcoming quantitative methods town halls. You saw those on Mallory's slides earlier. Kim is organizing 5 qualitative working group QWG meetings this year. So that's fantastic. And then the core leadership team and Hannah are currently planning several group-based activities, hopefully for the spring of 2022. One of them will be an introduction to natural language processing, headed up by Will Brown. Another one will be biomedical measurement, headed up by Edwin Charlebois. And a shout out to Judy Hahn for being involved with that as well. And then we're also working on, Kim, Hannah, and I are working on one that would be an intro to discrete choice experiments, and we're assembling the team for that. And then we're just interested in your feedback during the Q&A or afterwards on any other topics you might like us to look into for presenting a workshop, and any other suggestions in general. And the best way to reach us is just to reach out to us individually. Me as the core director, or any of our core co-directors or scientists. And of course, you can always contact Stuart as well to access the core. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. It's always a challenge to follow the work of Tor and Mallory describing the developmental and methods core, because they do such a great job. I wanted to start a little bit talking about what the community engagement core is. And this statement kind of summarizes our approach to community engagement, where we always think of our work as being mutual and bi-directional with the community. We never want to, I think that those of us at CAPS never want to be seen as part of the ivory tower, where we're trying to, just get information to the community or get something from the community. But we really want to work in partnership, following principles of respect and egalitarianism and working together to really reach our aims of both building the capacity of our scientists, researchers, and helping to build the community by sharing the work that we do with them. Next slide, please. So I wanted to talk a little bit about our community engagement core aims. Our first aim is really, going from science to the community, where we're really trying to connect high impact HIV science and the results that we're doing to community so that it can be put into practice. So we want to increase community access to the science and to increase the application of our innovative HIV research. Our second aim is really around community to the scientists. So we want to accelerate our use of community expertise. And I'll get into how we do that later. And our third aim is really to foster community engaged research. So we're trying to really strengthen the bonds between the community and science, and to support community engaged research that really is designed to increase community participation, empowerment, that influences the entire research life cycle, from the design and inception of the idea to the implementation of the study, to the analysis and understanding what the results mean, and to the ultimate dissemination of findings. The next slide. And really our structure and how to access it is really focused on our great team who I love dearly. Excuse me. And that includes I'm the co-director of the core. I'm the director of the core, and Emily Arnold. Dr. Emily Arnold is the co-director. And Emily, please feel free to, I should have said this at the beginning, interrupt me at any time if I misspeak or go off track. And then we have our contributing scientists, who are Susan Kegelis, who is a professor emeritus, as well as Janet Myers, Paria Saburi, and John Seseda. And our staff are Dr. Barbara Green-Ajufo, who is our research partnerships manager, and John Hamiga, who is our communication specialist. And anytime you have any ideas or want to access any of our services, please feel free to reach out to any one of us. We're always really trying to improve our relations with our entire CAPS family. So just we're only an email away. Next slide, please. So really our resources, services, and activities include a variety of work. In our first aim, from science to community, we provide technical assistance both to internal folks at CAPS and in the division, as well as trying to get our as well as providing TA externally. We run our, and John Hamiga in particular runs our website and social media activities. I'm sure John will put in the chat how to subscribe to our social media accounts. If you're not following us, please do so. We also are really trying to promote our YouTube page, and I already saw that John put something in about the DPS YouTube, so please feel free to follow us on YouTube. We have a whole range of products that we develop. We also do community to science work, where we organize our community advisory board and community town halls. Please attend those. And we facilitate community engagement research by really having a large presence in the community, and by helping to support the work of community engaged projects that are going on. Next slide, please. And our community, this is our community advisory board. Our meetings are open to anybody at CAPS. We meet quarterly, usually on the third Thursdays of January, April, July, and October. You're free to come at any time. These are our amazing CAB members who all represent different aspects of the community. We're currently looking for new CAB members, so if you know anybody in the community that you want to invite, please feel free to send them to the link on our website. And I think that was our last slide.
Great.
Thank
Okay,
you, everybody.
First of all, thanks everyone, and it's such a pleasure to be part of this absolutely amazing team and initiative. So, as Dr. Sevelius mentioned, in CAPS 8 we introduced a new core. Previously, we had the Intervention and Implementation Core, the I&I Core, and we transitioned from I&I to the Implementation Science and Health Systems Core, because we recognized a need to really address the implementation challenges that limit the reach and the delivery of our interventions, particularly to populations who experience complex social conditions and care needs. So our goal is really to build and support scientific skills that address the complexity of factors that impede the integration of our interventions into practice, and to building skills to work within these increasingly complex health systems, as Jae mentioned, both clinical and community settings. Next slide. Great. So we collected an amazing group of core scientists with complementary expertise. I'm the core director. Dr. Wayne Stewart is my core co-director. And we have Doctors Judy Auerbach, Margaret Hanley, Janet Myers, Christina Mangurian, Ida Sim, and Edward Charlebois, who all offer really complementary expertise that's listed on the slide. And by the way, this this slide or this information can also be found on the website, so I won't go into too much detail. We have other significant contributors, John Seseda and Will Brown, and we also have an affiliated scientific list. The full complement can be found on the website, and we have a really great group of affiliated scientists. All right, next slide. So our core has 3 aims, which we're going to accomplish through providing a mix of skills building workshops, seminars, and consultations. The first aim is to stimulate rigorous research to optimize intervention implementation. And that includes sort of how to choose and utilize implementation theories and frameworks, how to choose implementation strategies to improve service delivery depending on your context and population, and how to adapt and refine interventions to meet the needs of the populations being served. Our second aim is to promote expertise in integrating interventions into diverse health delivery settings. And this really includes how to integrate both the programming and the data collection into different systems, whether they're clinical systems or community settings, and also how to operationalize measures of context and implementation processes to further your research. Our third aim is really lofty, and that's to build capacity towards sustaining interventions. So we'll provide consultations, seminars, and discussions to really help navigate the policy context, to help promote partnership opportunities, and to promote bidirectional learning and dialogue towards finding options for sustainability. And there's a lot that goes into finding solutions towards sustainability, from identifying funding mechanisms to keep programs in place and pay for interventions, activities, and services, to understanding the regulations and licensing for service delivery and getting partners on board to continue implementation. So this is all part of that third aim. Next slide. Thanks. Okay, so our core services are delivered through consultations, through skill building workshops, conferences, seminars, and through building networks. And, we have, to request a consultation, you can check in with Rochelle Blanco, whose email is right here on the slide. And Rochelle is our amazing administrator for this core. Consultations cover anything from general inquiries about implementation science or interventions, or how to integrate interventions into settings, to peer reviews, talking through frameworks, methods, and measures. The skills building workshops are being planned for the spring, the first of many, and those are probably going to be 2 to 3 day afternoons where we're covering different topics like theories and frameworks, or how to select implementation strategies and adapt interventions. We'll be doing small conferences in years 3 and 5 to just really catalyze innovations and discuss what's going on with evidence-based programming. We do teachbacks from various different conferences, and we'll be holding seminars and town halls over the next year. We had a survey that went out to the CAPS community, and we've been looking through the topics that people are interested in, and we'll be working towards getting those seminars up and running. And also, we have an extended multidisciplinary and multi-sector sort of network of collaborators that we can refer folks to for partnering opportunities. And so we're really working on expanding that network. And that is, I think, the summary of what we're doing. Thanks so much.
Thank you to all of our fabulous core directors. I know that was a lot of information in a short period of time, but we really just wanted to have an opportunity to share our vision and our services for CAPS 8 for the next 5 years, and also open it up to discussion, feedback, questions, anything folks are interested in doing a deeper dive into or just want more information about, or if any of the core co-directors want to add to what the directors mentioned, this is our time. Please feel free to jump right in.
So I have a question.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Hi, everybody. So this is exciting. Happy to be in a new cycle, and I'm loving the themes. So thank you, guys. In terms of the co-occurring theme, and you said that you want to address social dynamics and structural issues. And so I'm wondering if for the social dynamics or issues, if you guys have identified a focus, or will you let them sort of come up organically?
I can jump in, and I would love for anyone else to also add to this. But I think, you know, over the course of the history of HIV science, there have been certain social factors that have really risen to the top as very important social determinants of health that we have been focused on and are increasingly focused on, such as racism, poverty, the impact of various consequences of how those operate in our society, such as disparities in incarceration, experiences of incarceration, employment discrimination. We can think of a lot of different elements, social factors that impact who is most impacted by HIV. And I think the way that this has evolved is that now that the science has increasingly recognized the importance of focusing on the intersections of many of those identities and social factors, social forces of privilege and oppression, that we're focusing more on how these co-occur and impact people's lived experience. So I know that was a little bit of like a lofty description, but if somebody wants to kind of, to ground that a little bit, I welcome other ideas about how to talk about that.
I will just say that, I think, Barbara, and I know you're aware of this too from stuff, and a lot of what we do these days in kind of where the focus is at in the HIV epidemic, both here in the US through things like the End the HIV Epidemics Initiative, and then through some of the international initiatives, there really is this focus on closing the gaps. The kind of, the HIV epidemic does quite well serving, let's say 80% of the people who the HIV epidemic, the response to the HIV epidemic does quite well serving the 80% or so of people who need services. And then there's this sort of 20% and really even more down to maybe 10% of folks who are not well served. And those are individuals who they experience a variety of vulnerabilities, and sort of circumstances that are outside their control, or just part of kind of structural barriers and systematic forms of oppression and discrimination that come to bear on lives. And so it makes it more difficult for services to reach them. And so that's where the focus is at. And so, I mean, as Jae is noting, your biggies are going to be racism, transphobia, poverty, incarceration. I'm probably missing something there, but those are the ones that repeatedly come up in the context of trying to do HIV research and sort of close the disparities gaps.
Thank you.
Untreated mental health, and Emily just typed, that is another one I forgot to say.
Hey, Nosy, do you want to add something?
Yes, thank you. I just have a question just to comment or add on what has already been said. I was just wondering what systems do we have in CAPS to help address that within the division, and or if that's work that's yet to be conducted moving forward. Or I'm just thinking, like, if there was somebody who needed help to address the social determinants, to address issues struggling maybe to, all the insecurities that we are talking about, somebody experiencing maybe other things, racism, microaggressions, do we have currently a way to address that within our space in the division?
I'm not sure I caught all of that because you were cutting in and out a little bit, but I think you were talking about how someone who wanted support in addressing some of these, like the co-occurring multiplicative factors in their research, might get support in sort of incorporating those or understanding those more within the division as a whole. Is that right?
I mean, yes, within CAPS and just within our space in the CAPS community, the division, just thinking out loud that these are also issues that affect us as a whole as we work in terms of, we're talking about racism, we're talking about issues of microaggression, we're talking about homophobia and all those things. So I was just wondering if there is a way to speak to that within
our internal efforts.
I think,
yes,
yeah, this would be a
I
good.
think that would, oh, sorry, somebody just notified me the sound. Sorry, I'm just gonna.
I was thinking, Mallory, that the DEI new components, maybe you can speak to that, and then I think as far as the developmental core, thinking nosy about we've yet to really start this, but burnout, well-being, kind of internally are things we're planning. But I know I'll let Mallory speak to the new DEI leads as well.
Right. Thank you, John, and thank you, Nosy, for that question. So yeah, it's striking how some of these same forces, these same dynamics, both in terms of the multiplicative factors and the layers of vulnerability, affect us as a community of researchers doing community engaged research. Absolutely, and also the other, a little bit more of a stretch, but the health systems, both. So here we have academic HR, we have systems within our work environments that can create and amplify some of the challenges that we experience. So thinking through how we can do that is it's a priority. So in terms of the we have Judy Tan has taken on the role to be a lead for DEIB, so diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in the division. And Judy will be doing, she'll be talking to the all division meeting next week. And we'll be outlining a plan to get input to try to flesh out where and how we can do better, and where and how some of these forces, how they affect people in their day-to-day work lives and their interface with their home life as well. So absolutely. And so watch out for ideas. We want to develop a sustainable program to really support DEI in the division. And so one of the first parts of that is understanding where we're doing well and where we need to do better. So lots more coming on that, and thank you for raising it. It's very important.
I wonder if we could also, I think Chad Campbell is with us, who leads up our anti-racism working group. I wonder if Chad is available to just say a few words about the efforts of the anti-racism group.
Yeah, I'm here, Jay. So our anti-racism working group meets bi-weekly, and we discuss issues that are wide-ranging in terms of how we are connecting with our communities, how we talk about them, how we conceive of our research projects, and think about the ways that we are sort of incorporating communities into our work, and the ways that we are representing them, and the way that we disseminate those findings. We also have several small grant projects that are underway to do diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism related projects within the division. And we also have a book club that we are going to be, we've done one book, we're going to be starting another book, so keep an eye out for those emails soon. And Jay, am I forgetting anything else from the group?
The survey.
The survey, yes. So Sheri and Tor and Jay have led a survey with the division to understand the climate as it relates to anti-racism and DEI within the division, and they are currently analyzing those data, and we will be sharing those out with the division when that data is ready to be shared.
There's also a town hall speaker series. There's a shared experiences storytelling initiative, and just started is a working group on developing an anti-racism statement for the division.
And I want to apologize. I did not, sorry, Chad, I did not mention that you'll be sharing more of this work with us at the upcoming all division meeting as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Yes, and just trying to remember all that on the spot, I'm just very happy to see how many things we have going on. So thanks for helping me remember all of those pieces.
Judy.
Hi, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you all so much for your short and sweet and powerful presentations. I have a question about CAPS 9 and 10 and 11 and 12. What are your visions for the next iterations, given where HIV prevention and intervention research is today? And obviously, I'm asking about what your vision is about HIV and how it'll change in the future.
Great question, Judy. Huge question. I think, obviously we're going to be doing some very comprehensive strategic planning over the next, few years to plan for CAPS 9. Hopefully eventually we won't need a Center for AIDS Prevention Studies. I mean, the whole goal of our work is to end HIV. So, so really our vision is to get as close to that goal as possible. And I think, as Wayne was mentioning, I think it's really going to be by focusing on people that we're not currently reaching with our current HIV prevention and care strategies. And so I think really dialing our science in to understand, how do we best serve those communities? How do we develop interventions that are culturally relevant, guided by the community, responsive to community needs, and also integrated into the places where community are already seeking services, where community already are. And I really see that our efforts in that direction amping up, and also thinking about how the new biomedical strategies that are being rolled out can best be delivered, and how can they best serve the communities that really need them the most. And I know our other core directors are going to have amazing things to say about this as well, so I'd love to hear from you as well.
That was a great response, and I'll add, I think cure development, HIV cure development technologies are advancing currently and will continue to do so. And John Saceda and others are doing work on what are the ethical and what are the the sort of the community perspectives on how to both conduct those trials, but once there's a product or products that show promise, how do we implement it that's equitable and really part of a community initiative as opposed to being top down. And so I think between that and, like you're saying, Jay, some of the advances in prevention and care with long-acting agents for both, but also recognizing no matter how sophisticated and how many options there are, those that have yet to be reached are going to be the priority, and their lives are more complicated. And so really understanding how we do that, there's a lot of work to be done still. Yeah.
Judy, I'll just say, I don't know if this may feel more like a responsive vision as opposed to a proactive one, but in the realm of health system stuff, which is part of what the core I'm on deals with, I think it's a reality. I think it's not telling tales out of school to say that we're at a bit of an inflection point with our health systems right now, and the COVID epidemic, their pandemic, is really putting an incredible strain on things. And I mean, you're just seeing huge amounts of burnout and providers leaving and stuff like that. So I would anticipate, at least as we head towards the next cycle, that's probably going to be an area of in what ways does the kind of services we offer evolve and change to correspond with the kind of realities we're going to be under, given the fact that, I mean, we had an issue of huge retirements on the horizon anyways, and now you've added just this kind of layer of all this extra burden and frankly exhaustion and just trauma from having dealt with this horrible condition for the last several years.
Yeah, and adding to Wayne's point about the health systems, I mean, these are issues that we're seeing globally as well. I mean, there's a shortage of community health workers and nurses across, you know, like South Africa where I work, and how to really integrate not just, you know, HIV services with all of the other communicable and non-communicable disease care issues that are going on is going to be a really, you know, one of the issues that we have to deal with, and comorbidities, which I think Edwin put into the chat, is going to be, I think that's another direction that we'll be heading in terms of health systems and really implementation science, you know, methods to really get these things integrated and health service delivery improved domestically and also internationally.
If I could just jump in with one other thought is around climate change. And, you know, multiple projects we've been involved in have lately worked in communities that have been affected by climate disasters, whether it's ice storms in Texas or hurricanes in Puerto Rico and New Orleans. And, you know, I think that's just becoming, it used to be the exception, and now it's becoming the routine, and how we address that in all of our community engagement efforts, I think is really important in helping to build the capacity of communities and to learn from communities about how they're preparing for disasters, and, you know, how we need to incorporate that into all of our both implementation science research and, you know, more traditional research as well.
Hi, this is Susan. I wanted to add in that, first of all, I wanted us to notice John Sesada's point that it's looking more like long-term suppression is what's going to happen rather than elimination. So there's still behavioral, social issues involved with that, if it's going to be long-term suppression. And like we see with everything else, there'll probably be disparities in that. And we're still seeing pretty horrendous disparities, like with PrEP use in terms of long-term use. You know, it was great to discover PrEP, but we're still finding people go on it and then go right back off it very quickly. And so it's not a be all and end all. And I think the hope has been from biomedical researchers that once they can inject people, all the problems will be gone, and with treatment as well, but I'll bet you they won't be gone. And then if we think about international situations as well, you know, I just saw something where there's some speculation that the Omicron may have been had some of the mutations happen because of being in people who had HIV and were untreated. So, you know, there's issues there too. And essentially what's happened every round is that we get to the point, I've been here since the first round and of CAPS, and we always really take a hard look at what is happening at the moment, since HIV research has changed so fundamentally over the years. But they're just, I remember in '96, I thought, okay, now we have, you know, perfect medications to stop people from dying. All our work is going to end. And it didn't. And so it seems like HIV is still continuing on. So I do think there'll be a place for us. Anyone else?
Well, on the method side, I mean, I would say that there's going to be just continuing explosion of data from different sources, and it will be continuing to be a challenge to make sense of all that. More doesn't necessarily mean better. A lot of it's going to be very messy, coming from sources that were really not made for research in mind at the outset. And so that's why these, you know, advanced techniques like NLP and machine learning, I think, have so much promise for us with those kinds of data, and especially with some of the work that Will is doing in his K, where he's seeking to integrate big data, NLP data with causal inference methods so that we can make stronger, more rigorous inferences, even in the context of messy data. So that will continue as well, I think. And then the other thing I would just say is a kind of more banal challenge will be that in the 20 years that I've been involved with the P30 mechanism, NIH has progressively cut the budgets by about 10% each time. So it will be a continued creative challenge for us to figure out how to do more with less.
Anyone else? All right, well, thank you all so much for joining us for this brief and quick overview of CAPS-8. We're so lucky to have such an amazing family of scientists, community members, activists, staff. I just really appreciate each and every one of you and all of your contributions. Thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to continuing collaborating.